and welcome to this first edition of the Broad and Pattison podcast. For Alex Ozer, I'm Hunter Walsh, and we are your hosts for this podcast. And we're going to get to meet each other soon. There are going to be timestamps in the description if you want to skip to certain parts in the podcast. We're going to start with Meet the Hosts, then transition into the Eagles game preview against Washington tomorrow, and then we are going to go into Phillies overlook of the season so far. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. We're going to get this podcast underway. So we're going to start out with Meet the Hosts. We're going to start with Alex here. So go ahead.
Alexander Ozer. I'm 13, like our other hosts. And this is the first podcast we've done. I've been a Philadelphia sports fan for a few years now. And I'm excited to do this.
And we'll transition to me here. I'm Hunter Walsh. I'm your other host. And also the social media manager. Alex is the editor. I've been following sports for probably the last 3-4 years. The two of us are probably the smartest it gets in our age group when it comes to sports. I specialize more in the baseball and the hockey. Alex will help more out on the football and the basketball. But yeah, so that's us. Leave a comment down in the description. Tell us about you. We want to know about you. So let us know. So we're going to get started with the game preview. It's the Eagles against the Redskins at home. It's tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Sunday, of course, at 1 o'clock on Fox. Dude. So we're going to get started with the Eagles against the Redskins preview. It's at home, 1 o'clock on Sunday. It's on Fox for those of you who want to watch it. Let's start with the betting line here. The Eagles are favored by 10. What do you think of that?
I think they're probably wrong. The score is going to be better for the Eagles. They're probably going to win by, 2 possessions, probably more.
So what's your score prediction?
I'd probably say maybe 38-20.
38-20.
Yeah.
I would say even more of a deficit than that. I'd say more of like a 38-13 type game. Like
we know
a 38.
The Redskins are pretty garbage.
The Redskins are bad this year. That's lightly put. The Redskins pretty much have no one. Their big free agent signing was Landon Collins. Exactly. But now let's shift over to the over-under here. 44.5. So with the Eagles being favored by 10 and the over-under being 44.5, that's a 27-17 game. So that's what Vegas has it. Now, Vegas is obviously more conservative than the average fan. We're
done.
More than the average Broad and Pattison podcast. So the over-under is set at 44.5. What's your thought process on that?
Because I said that the score would end up being different, I think that the over-under is going to be maybe almost close to 60.
60. And you think that's obviously going to be like clearly in the Eagles' favor. You said 38-20. That would be an over-under of 58. So basically, for all our Vegas fans out there, bet over on this one. And would you bet for the Redskins in a -10 betting line? Do you think the Redskins have a good enough chance that you put your money on that?
What's the chance that Carson Wentz gets injured in the first week? I'd probably put it on that.
Touche. All right. And even so, Josh McCown, under center, is better than pretty much anything that they have in the quarterback room.
So we'd give the chance of Carson Wentz getting injured in the first week, and probably about a 25% chance still to win that, because we saw Josh McCown in only 3 practices. He killed the Ravens' secondary defense.
I'm going to take a moment and look up some Josh McCown stats. Take it away.
All right. How do you feel about the offensive line versus the defensive line? Just real quick.
I'd say I think Do you mean like the Redskins D line and the
Yes.
Eagles O line?
Yes.
I think it's clearly in our favor. I think whoever's on Ryan Kerrigan, it makes it probably Lane Johnson, I would assume.
On the outside.
On the outside, I think that's in the Eagles' favor. I think Ryan Kerrigan is a great player, but I just got to give it to
can't
Lane
carry
there.
that team.
No, he can't. He can't, and he
Carry
can't.
this-
He can't carry the defense.
Carry him to 4-12.
He can't. What? So, go through your division's standings.
I have the Eagles at 1, which is a pretty popular one. The
But
Cowboys-
what do you think their record will be?
I think it's probably going to be 12-4. Their ceiling's higher than that, and their floor is playoffs.
Playoffs.
I have the Cowboys at number 2, probably a number 6 seed, going 9-7, maybe 10-6. I have the Giants at the 3rd spot if Daniel Jones isn't that garbage.
So you have the Giants over the Redskins.
Yes.
So what do you think the Redskins? You think they'll go 4-12?
The Giants or the Redskins?
The Giants, or no, the Redskins. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you said
I
that
was
Ryan Kerrigan.
probably giving them a little bit of slack on the 4-12 there. 'Cause,
Wow, really?
I mean, look at how many players got injured on the Redskins and how terrible their staff is for injuries.
Yeah.
If a player's injured, he's going to be injured for a while. They don't know how to deal with
Right.
that. So let's say old journeyman Case Keenum gets injured, then you have Dwayne Haskins in there.
Would you consider starting Haskins over Colt McCoy if you're Washington?
I'd try that because it seems like this season is most likely a tanking season.
For Washington, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think they've kind of been pulling that off. Or maybe you could say that keeping Jay Gruden in the mix, if you're the Redskins, is kind of signaling that you think you can contend. But I think this year, aside from maybe signing a Landon Collins, that maybe they're trying to shift over to tanking. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
I just think that they suck at tanking. Like, how do you suck at tanking?
Right.
You sign more players. You
Right.
should probably just give away your draft picks.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't give away draft picks, my bad. You should get some of your draft picks. Trade right.
So I've got the stats for Josh McCown here. He's got, in one game played, he has 17 completions for 24 attempts, which is a pass percentage of about 71. He's got 192 yards, which on average is 8 yards a pass. He's got 2 touchdowns and interceptions his longest pass was 35, which was the pass to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, that first touchdown in the Baltimore game. He was sacked once with a QBR of north of 120. So he was good under Doug Peterson in that Baltimore game. Do you have confidence, let's say, on the off chance that I would say the off chance that Carson Wentz gets injured, are you confident in Josh McCown?
I'm confident that he's going to be above average. He's going to be better than somebody like Jameis Winston at quarterback.
Under Doug Peterson?
Yes.
That's a bold statement. I think he'd
was-
definitely be a system quarterback
Uh-huh.
in this. He wouldn't be as good as Nick Foles,
Yeah.
but he'd work. With Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard, the crowded backfield that we have, the talent in the backfield that we have, and clearly the talented receiving core, I think Josh McCown can clearly get the job done under Dougie Fresh. So that's the stats for Josh McCown. Let's look at some matchups here. So we're going to look at some matchups here. We're going to look at some Eagles receivers versus some Redskins corners to start it out. So I'm gonna look them up here.
All right, and I think we want to elaborate on how Josh Norman's going to be able to cover Alshon Jeffrey, or maybe even Deshaun Jackson, depending on how the game goes. If Deshaun Jackson seems like he's a deadly weapon, then
Deshaun Jackson has shown
Yes.
he's proven himself against
we're
Washington
going
for
to
sure.
see how Landon Collins takes the zones, because he's most likely going to be in zone coverage.
Let's not forget that Michael Vick pass against Washington a couple of years back. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch.
We already have. The record.
This is a win.
Uh-huh.
We can say that.
Yes, the Eagles receivers match up better than the Redskins cornerbacks. Let's not forget that the Redskins have Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, who still managed to be in the league after almost a decade, probably over a decade.
All right, so who do you see covering Zach Ertz?
We're looking at safeties here.
Yes.
I'd probably just look at Landon Collins. I feel like he would be on him. He's the most skilled player out of that core.
Out of probably Monte Nicholson and Landon Collins, out of the two of them, I'd probably say Landon Collins is the better matchup for Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is going to dominate whoever's on him.
Yeah, it's
because he's Zach Ertz. But I think Landon Collins is definitely more physical. He's 6 foot 220. He can definitely stay with Ertz. I just don't think he's a great competitor. I mean, we've seen him play Ertz twice a year for the last few years with New York, and it just doesn't work. But out of the four safeties that Washington has, I'd say Landon Collins is the best option.
All right.
Who do you see covering Alshon Jeffrey?
I see Josh Norman probably going one-on-one with him. And then Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, who's still at a good speed for his age. He's probably going to be on Deshaun Jackson. You know, there's going to be safety help up at the top, maybe a cover one type of coverage.
Does the height factor into it? I mean, Cromartie is 6'2".
Yes. So he's probably going to be able to win.
He is significantly taller
5'11"
than
compared
Sean.
to 6'2".
He's going to win 50-50 balls. And we've got breaking news here from Alshon Jeffrey. And speak of the devil here. We have breaking news. Alshon Jeffrey just restructured his deal with the Eagles. I'm going to look for some details, but what are your initial thoughts on the news?
It's great to keep him up here. He's probably going to be the number one receiver. Deshaun Jackson's going to be the number two, you know.
Right.
You're probably going to have to double cover him if he gets back to his 2017 for him. And it's going to be great to have him back on the team for another few years, depending on how long that is.
Could there be another move following this? I mean, could they possibly be trying to change around the amount of money that they have in the cap space for another player?
Like who?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't really heard many reports come out of Eagles camp the last couple of days of any players. I mean, since that whole debacle with Houston went down, the whole Houston, Seattle, New Orleans, and Miami, all that day about a week ago. I guess that's 2 weeks ago now? No. That was about a week ago.
About a week ago.
But since then, we haven't really heard much news coming out of Eagles camp, but the Eagles and Alshon Jeffrey have agreed to terms on a contract restructure that takes about $12 million this year and turns most of it into a signing bonus. Most importantly, this means that $11.5 million next year is now fully guaranteed. So that means that he is going to be an Eagle for the next 2 seasons. This is great, obviously.
You think this is his home now compared to Chicago?
I think he wants to be here. I think he's great in the locker room. He's a great presence. He's close to a lot of the guys.
He's got the best hands in the league.
He's got come on, one drop, man. You gotta let him live that down. I mean, really, looking at J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, that was kind of a move that we thought was going to replace Alshon. So now that the Eagles have locked up Alshon for an extra year, what's Whiteside's role in the coming years?
I think once Alshon cools down, I think he's going to be the replacement for him. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he's got a little bit of speed onto him too, so, you know, he might end up replacing Aguilar. You know, big bodies in the receivers. Not Deshaun Jackson.
Right.
He's all speed.
Right.
Nothing against him.
The closest comparison to Whiteside, I would say, is probably an Alshon Jeffrey, which is fitting.
Arcega's like one.
But back to what we were talking about.
Redskins versus Eagles.
The Eagles and the Redskins matchups. Who is covering Nelly in the slot?
This is a tough year. I think it's going to be Quentin Dunbar.
6'2", 200.
Yep. They have a lot of tall cornerbacks here. They have, 6'2", 6'2", 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. And I feel like
they have a pretty big and tall cornerback core. I would probably say Greg Stroman. I think Greg Stroman matches up more with Nelly's size.
6 foot.
I think he's a lot faster.
Mainly off of his age.
However, I mean, look, he's the youngest, and he's pretty much the smallest cornerback that Washington has. And, I mean, if you're the Washington, you want a taller cornerback, or anybody in the secondary. You want someone taller to be on Deshaun Jackson to win that 50-50.
Aguilar's not getting 50-50 balls.
Because he's in the slot. He's not going to get those high passes that Arcega-Whiteside or Deshaun Jackson that they're going to see. Nelly's more going to get some 5-yard, 10-yard passes for most of the season.
And he'll just have to maneuver his way around the second.
But we've seen Nelly in that deep threat role. He's going to see it a lot less with Deshaun out there on the outside.
But he'll still be relevant.
We've seen it. We've seen it mostly in that 2017 season. Obviously, the first play of the 2017 season was a long pass to Nelson Aguilar for a touchdown. So, who wins this matchup? Who wins all these matchups overall?
I feel like the Eagles are going to win it.
For sure. For sure.
And Wentz is still able to pick a defense apart, so.
Right. Wentz has good reads. We've seen that all training camp as well. In that, especially, we saw that especially in the joint practice with Baltimore. He had a lot of high passes in the corner or the end zone, which is something that we could see for Alshon or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Or even Matt Collins. He has the size.
We could even see Matt Collins in that role.
He's mainly a special teams player, though.
Another thing I want to talk about is Nigel Bradham. The last couple of days, we've heard some reports out of the Eagles camp that he didn't show up to that last game against New York, and he didn't show up for a few of the days in training camp. The Eagles decided not to suspend him. Now, if I was the Eagles, my personal thought is suspend him. Fine him. He missed a preseason game. The front cover that it's not that big of a deal, but that's disrespect on Nigel Bradham's side. So I would say suspend him, especially since you're not playing a top team or a top offense, especially this week. It's only going to be a 1-game suspension, if any. You're playing the Redskins.
Nobody cares.
You don't need Nigel Bradham. So, what do you think?
I think that it's going to be okay, even if he doesn't play in the game. If he does play,
he will. Right. He's officially going to play.
That's great.
If he shows up.
He is a good player on the Eagles. He's one of the better players on the defense.
Again, led the team in tackles that 2017 Super Bowl. That 2017 Super Bowl run. He's a big piece of the defense.
Do you feel that he's the best linebacker that we have right now over Zach Brown?
Yes, but I'm only saying that because
we haven't seen him play.
Because, right, and we've heard reports out of training camp that Zach Brown isn't exactly grasping he's not exactly grasping Doug Peterson's playbook on defense or Jim Schwartz's playbook on defense. So I would say Nigel Bradham. Although Nigel Bradham is a little on the older side, so is Zach Brown. But I'd say Nigel Bradham is decreasing. We've got young guys like Cam Grugier-Hill, who, by the way, will not play tomorrow. He is the only Eagles starter that is officially out as of right now.
Good guess. Injuries.
Yeah, right. We already have an injury on the front. Now let's look at the Eagles front seven versus the Redskins O-line. So we've got Fletcher Cox but he's basically
Bait.
He's not being covered by anybody. Obviously he is, but we're just not. There's no one on the left side for the Redskins. No one that
Trent Williams, where is he?
Yeah, Trent Williams is not going to play week 1. There are actually a few names on the Redskins core that will not play, but Trent Williams is out.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a big piece. He's the captain.
He's the captain of that O-line. He's the
captain of probably almost the entire team.
Yeah, he's the center of that O-line. Not literally.
Even though he's
the left tackle. But
yeah.
Who's going to get the job of guarding Fletcher Cox? Because no one can do it. The only person that the Redskins have is Trent Williams. So Fletcher Cox is going to have a field day.
They Brandon Scherf. I'm not sure if I'm butchering that name, but it's Brandon Scherf. He's a right guard. They might be able to move him inside.
Would you move him? Would you move him to the outside on the left side?
Or
completely out of position? So you think that he'll get more time against the guard in the center. Yeah. Do you think he'll be double teamed?
Probably. You have to. Even though that front 7 is pretty scary, especially the defensive line.
Now you've got Derek Barnett fully healthy. You've got Nigel Bradham. You've got Zach Brown. You've got a lot of edge rushers, right? Like Brandon Graham. So, would you, if you're Jay Gruden, would you double team Fletcher Cox?
I think that I would double team him because if you don't, he's just gonna get a lot of sacks. He could get 3, maybe 4. How do you feel about this matchup, just as a whole?
I think the Eagles' D-line is just going to rip right through them.
We're going to have Case Keenum.
I think the biggest guy on this D-line, on this front 7, really, that will help us. I think Derek Barnett will probably be the biggest factor when it comes to our D-line.
Depends on if he comes back after that injury.
So we also have breaking news. This is outside of the Eagles' camp. Antonio Brown has agreed to terms with the New England Patriots. Officially, as of a couple minutes ago, it is a 1-year deal worth up to $15 million. Do you like this move for New England?
No.
No? Why not?
I mean, he's ruined 2 teams in the past about maybe half a year, so that's one thing he's good at. But, can he ruin the Patriots?
But we've seen that before. We've seen Randy Moss, we've seen Josh Gordon fit under Bill Belichick. And they are 2 of the most troubled receivers in NFL history. And they fit with New England. So could New England possibly make a good thing out of this?
I don't know. Antonio Brown, he might not be able to do that well in the cold, especially with frostbite. So
yeah, I've heard that's gone away now.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
You
didn't get my joke. I said that's cool.
That's cool. So let's talk about this quarterback matchup.
Case Keenum.
Do we exactly know right now who the quarterback is for Washington?
No idea. Everybody's just so average.
They just have 3 okay quarterbacks.
Okay.
But if I was Dan Snyder, if I was Jay Gruden, it's got to be Case Keenum. Because you got a rookie and a signified 3rd stringer in that quarterback room, along with Case Keenum. So, what do you think? I
think that you should also start Case Keenum. That's a good idea.
He's proven himself. He's had big games. He's been in big games. They've got Josh Woodrum. He's their practice squad quarterback, but he's not exactly in that conversation.
Who? Zeke who?
So I just looked it up, and 2 weeks ago, they announced that Case Keenum is the starter. No surprise there. We know what Case Keenum can do against the Eagles, right?
Nothing.
38-7. But
yeah, it said nothing.
Right, exactly. But we don't have Patrick Robinson anymore, so.
Ruh-roh. He threw the same amount of touchdowns to his own team as the other team.
I want to ask another question here. Is this Jay Gruden's last year in Washington if they don't win 7 games?
Probably.
8 games?
He's just been average.
He hasn't really done anything for him.
I mean, was he the coach when the Redskins made the playoffs with RG3?
Yes.
And that's basically just RG3 being RG3.
They were supposed to. Oh, we got a top recorded quarterback, and we've got a new coach who last name is Gruden. So we're gonna have a great tenure here, and look how that worked out for Washington. Let's shift gears here. I want to talk about some Phillies. So now we're gonna look at the Phillies. I mean, where do we even start? I mean, this season has just been a roller coaster of emotions. We've just gone from win streak to losing streak to win streak to losing streak.
To being one of the best teams in the league to being now out of the playoffs, most likely.
We're tied for 3rd place in the National League East. We're in 4th place for the wild card race, tied also with the Mets. The Phillies are falling apart. They've lost 3 in a row. They're 4-6 in the last 10. They're 4 games behind the wild card, which is Chicago and Washington right now. Meanwhile, let's look at the rest of the division. The Mets are on the verge of sweeping us. The Nationals have lost 3 in a row, but they're still 16 games above 500. And the Braves are 88-54, a mere 34 games above 500, and they've won 8 in a row. They're 8-2 in the last 10.
Looking pretty dominant. Which really sucks.
They're not mathematically out of it yet. They have 16 games to go. No, that's wrong. They have 22, I think. Yeah, we're gonna go. They have 22 games left. They're not mathematically out of it at all. They're 15 games behind the Braves. They are 4 games behind the Cubs. With 22 games left, it's just not going to happen, folks. The Phillies are done this year.
Even if we do get a chance, we're going to just end up ruining it.
Yeah, the Phillies, they'll make it look cool at the end. They'll be right in there, but it's not going to happen. Bryce Harper out of the lineup again tonight.
After getting rocked. You think that was intentional?
I do think that was intentional. 93 miles an hour off the hands. It was bad.
Almost looked like he was going to get hit in the face.
He leaned out of it.
Just barely.
It's a disaster.
Yeah. Because that basically ends it, depending on how long he's out. Did he break his hand?
It's just a contusion. He's just out tonight. But the Phillies season as a whole has been a disaster. It's sad. It's after the huge off season that we've had.
Bryce Harper,
Andrew McCutchen, obviously. We can't blame that on Andrew McCutchen. But
it's just
what do we even say? I mean, it's just been so disappointing. We got the best catcher in baseball. We have 2 former MVPs. We have a former Cy Young winner, who, again, injury. We have a pitcher who finished 3rd in Cy Young voting last year. Hasn't really shown that this year.
Yeah, it's just like...
We picked up Jason Vargas. We picked up Gene Segura.
I mean, we started off hot.
We started off great.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a point in which we were the 3rd best team in the league.
There was a point where we were the only undefeated team in the league.
Which, of course, that wasn't very long, but...
We were 4-0 at that point.
But keep in mind...
It hurts my feelings. Because people who say that this isn't Gabe Kapler's fault have no clue what they're talking about. Matt Klentak and John Middleton spent a lot of money. A lot of goddamn money on this team.
For a lot of goddamn good players.
Yeah. Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto. I already went through that list. Dave Robertson, again, out for the season. Can't blame that on him. But these are just guys that should be able to produce for you. And a lot of them are. JT Realmuto is producing. He's having the best year of his career. Bryce Harper is having the 2nd best year of his career. Of course, behind that 2015 MVP campaign.
And where are we now?
We are 4 games above 500. Third in the NL East. 4 games behind the Cubs in the wild card.
Now, we're back in this if the Cubs win, or if the Cubs lose 2 in a row and we win 2 in a row. Correct?
Right.
But that's not going to happen. We're not going to win 2 in a row.
Right. We're not. It's just not going to happen. I'm
In
sorry.
our last 10, we've been 4-6.
This is Gabe Kapler's fault. And I'm going to say this right now. If the Phillies finish with more than 80 wins, which they will, Gabe Kapler will keep his job. And that is really insulting to me.
Because he got 80 wins with probably one of the most talented teams in the league.
John Middleton and Matt Klentak believe in Gabe Kapler way too much. He has had 2 really talented teams in the last 2 years and has done absolutely nothing with them.
Yeah, we both choked at the very end.
We have players like Rhys Hoskins and Aaron Nola and Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto. And we have a bullpen on paper that could be a top 10 in the league. We have an offense that could be top 3 in the league. We have a starting staff who obviously isn't the best, but we have guys that have proven themselves in this rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, here we are,
70.
22 games left. We are 72 and 68. We've had great games.
Uh-huh.
We've had that game against Cole Hamels, 11-1. We had opening day.
Mm-hmm. But you only win some games when you have good games. You need to have a lot of good games. It makes sense.
You do. And you need to have run differential. And in this league, you need to hit home runs.
Mm-hmm.
This team does not hit home runs. The Phillies are 21st in the league out of 30 teams in home runs.
It's the same thing with like the New York Giants, how they just took their checkdowns every single play, and you see where they are.
Yeah, you
gotta go aggressive.
You can't throw checkdowns.
Mm-hmm. And you can't
hit home runs. You can't hit singles.
Uh-huh.
It just doesn't work nowadays. It used to, but we've had.
This is a different league.
We've had a Moneyball approach in the last 2 decades, which is a great movie. I recommend it, but it's insulting. Mm-hmm. The fact that I know that Gabe Kapler could be top or bottom 5 managers in the league, but he is not going anywhere, which really sucks.
Mm-hmm. This is
the fact that he's not even on the hot seat with a team like this, only 4 games above 500. 4 games above 500.
Imagine if he was on a place like the Orioles, who are already garbage.
The Orioles might not even win a game if Gabe Kapler was their manager. I will be completely honest with you. Fire Gabe Kapler right now. And
it'll help.
I understand. Look, Matt Klentak, John Middleton. I understand that it doesn't get much better than him on the market. But come on. There is guys that are better than Gabe Kapler on the market. That former Angels manager, I forget his name, but he's managed Mike Trout, and he's won baseball games. Aaron Boone, the manager of the New York Yankees, could make this a 90-win team. Either of the two of us could make them a 90-win team. This is an easy team. This is an easy team to manage. He makes dumb decisions, and that's I can only put it lightly. He makes dumb decisions in big parts of the baseball game. You don't put Jose Alvarez in the 8th inning. Nick Pivetta does not close out 1-run games. I'm sorry, it just does not happen. Things like having the center fielder pitch and putting the pitcher in left field is like a MLB The Show glitch. Mm-hmm. This is unreal, and he needs to go.
Like, normally when they don't fire managers, you think maybe we're missing something, but we're not this time.
We're not. And I understand. Everyone understands. There's been a lot of injuries. Andrew McCutchen, David Robertson, half of the bullpen, basically. Jake Arrieta. A lot of these guys aren't exactly the big impact players. Andrew McCutchen probably. He was a leadoff hitter that could hit the occasional home run. But you still have Bryce Harper every day. And you still have JT Realmuto every day. And you still have Aaron Nola every fifth day. And you still have Rhys Hoskins every day. And you've only won 72 games to show for it.
Can we get a slow clap?
It's just disappointing to me. And it's disappointing to every fan in the Delaware Valley.
Every fan that supports the Phillies.
I always say, well, I hate being a Phillies fan. And then someone would shout from the background, well, at least you're not an Orioles fan. I'd rather be an Orioles fan.
Who the hell is an Orioles fan?
Around here, we've got a few. But
God have mercy on their soul.
I'd rather be an Orioles fan. Because I would be able to come into this season and be like, okay, we're not going to win any games. But we're going to get a high draft pick, and we're going to draft a guy like Adley Rutschman, which they did. A great catcher. A great young catcher. We're going to sit back and we're going to laugh at how bad we are. But other teams are going to laugh at us, and we're going to end up beating them in the World Series in 5 to 10 years. The Phillies were supposed to be a World Series contender.
They were supposed to be a dream team. They were a dream team.
They have a lot of good young players. They are a dynasty in the making. They were supposed to be a 90-win team, World Series contender. Maybe better than the Dodgers. Well, you know what? Say that now when you're 4 games above 500, tied for 3rd place in the NL East, and 4 games behind the second wild card spot. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about this. It's ridiculous.
Disappointment.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And
I mean, what can we say? What much more could we say about this?
You can't. And it's just sad.
But we're gonna have to move on and wait for another disappointing season.
If Gabe Kapler is the manager next June, I might stop watching this team. Because he needs to go, and he's made it obvious. It's like he's purposely trying to get them to fire him. But they just refuse to. It makes me mad.
And that is all for the first edition of the Broad and Passing podcast. If you want to leave a suggestion, you can. If you like, comment, subscribe. If you want to follow our social medias for both Twitter and Instagram, it's